Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 7 of Duke It Out. I am joined tonight by the lovely Duchess.
Thank you for having me.
Always welcome. And tonight we have another set of controversy in an attempt to create some cash, covering everything from school shootings to racism in politics and football, and bringing it all the way back to some fun times, as well as the results of our online poll. So, to kick this all off, right now we are, set up here in Maryland for, the now. And something that not a lot of people probably know is there was a school shooting up here over the past week. It's funny to me because I went ahead and posted this out on my page and the Debate Amongst Friends page, and I was like, let's see how long it takes for mass media to, start talking about this one like they did with Parkland. Like, we're still hearing about Parkland, and that happened on Valentine's Day over a month ago. Like, it's about to be April. Not to say that it doesn't deserve the conversation that it's getting, however, it is not the only school shooting to have happened between then and now.
That is true.
And I only bring up this one because it hits so close to, again, where we currently are, but also because the school in which it happened is majority black. And I am usually not the person to raise the race flag, but it was just hilarious to me that I'm like, I was sitting back listening to the speech that the NRA spokesperson, Dana Lash, gave at CPAC the day after that whole CNN town hall thing. And there was one statement that she actually made that stuck out to me, and that I feel like applies to this situation. And she said that the tears of white mothers are ratings gold, that mass media cannot help themselves but to fawn over it, want to cover it like it's the end-all be-all. Regardless of what else happens in the world, you put a crying white mother on TV, everybody turns and listens. And the sad part is that in a lot of ways she's right. And, like, we know that she's right because that's what you hear growing up in minority communities. Like, we talk about it.
That's true.
It's just now to have to hear somebody actually come out and say it in the mainstream and acknowledge it is kind of like, oh, man. And for everybody who, after the fact, was like, no, that's not true, I point back to this situation. Again, roughly a month after that speech, here you have 2 kids who were shot, 1 kid who actually died, so 3 total that were caught up in this. But where's the media coverage? Like, where are the people, even just in this regional area, talking about this?
Well, it's not as it's gonna sound offensive. I don't mean it's not as sexy of a story. This is a boy that we can totally agree with what happened. He wanted to date the girl, dated the girl. There was a girl, and then there was bullets. Like, that's sort of happens all the time. I don't remind everybody of Helena Troy. She started a whole war. There are several times that women are just, unfortunately, the catalyst of some crazy. And that's why this story isn't good.
I mean, that's fair.
It's not the white boy that shot up the black kids. It's not some Romeo and Juliet interracial love, the Hatfields and McCoys, and they want to be together. No, it's a very relatable thing. He wanted something. He didn't get it. This is what he thought would do about it.
I mean, that's fair.
And I hope she's as cute as Helena Troy, the chick who launched 1,000 ships, because, well, same. And I don't use that lightly. We met in high school, and we got married. Right. That happens.
Right.
But I just know that, like, I feel like now children be acting like high school is it. I remember when I got to high school, my parents were like, these are going to be the best 4 years of your life. And I'm like, God, I hope not. They're like, why? I was like, because what's the next 60 years about after this is done? Then it's just all downhill from there. Like I might as well go kick some rocks and die because it's just
I'm just saying.
Perpetual downslope from here.
You can
I can't
peek out at
vote.
18.
I can't buy alcohol. I can't buy cigarettes. I still have a curfew. I can think of so many things that are still going to make my list as awesome past high school. But that is what we do with shows like Friday Night Lights, Pretty Little Liars, Gossip Girl. It is this whole pumped up thing, and we don't teach children. Like, I remember in school, nobody got a participation trophy. Like, either you were good enough to get a trophy, or you got nothing. And your parents had to be okay with that. There was going to be no coming in here to the school, talking to anybody. Like, your kid didn't rate until it gets weighed up. Honest thing. But I think if you don't teach kids that, and they don't learn to deal with loss, rejection, on much smaller scales. Like, you wanted to win this trophy, you didn't win it. Now you need to adjust your attitude and your things. You end up with children who are 16 and can't take no for a date.
That's fair.
And I mean, if they don't hop out and shoot someone, they're hopping behind trees and raping them because you just can't take no. And that's the problem. Like, all these small things, they correlate to larger things, but we are removing those lessons that we teach children when they're young.
And that's very, very fair. Very, very fair. I mean, it was funny because, again, I'm sitting here listening to these two people talk, and one of them brings up a very good point. He was like, you need bullies. Like, it's kind of like illness, where you need something for your body to fight in order to make your immune system stronger. That's kind of what bullies are for children.
I agree.
Like, you need that bully early on in this kid's life to teach them some adversity and how to overcome it. Because what ends up happening is, just like if you eliminate all germs and your kid happens to come in contact with a germ, they're going to die. They're going to die from, like, the common cold. And inversely, if you get rid of all the bullies and you have no one who ever stands up to your kid, challenges their viewpoint on the world, anything like this, then they're going to get out into the real world, which is hard and trying.
Sometimes.
And all the time.
Not really in Maryland. And you know I'm still serious.
I know.
We have some very aggressive social programs. Not in Maryland. Other places, sure.
But you are going to get out into the real world, and something is going to knock you on your butt. And it is going to turn into, how do you get over that? If you've never, God forbid this happens late in your life, like for some odd reason you're 35 when this happens, and this is the first time you've ever actually faced any true adversity, what are you going to do with yourself?
You're going to end up on Discovery ID. That's what you're going to do.
I mean, pretty much, yeah. You got turned over for that promotion, and next thing you know, you're shooting up the office. But that's exactly what happens. You sit here and dunk kids in Purell, and you tell them that they're special snowflakes, and you get rid of all the adversities and struggles, and poison ivies, and rabid dogs, and rusty gates, and bullies in the world. And then when they grow up, and they actually run into all of this stuff in the real world, because, oh wait, we don't nerf up everything in the life of adults.
I mean, heaven forbid those rusty gates get you coming down the street.
I'm just saying. But you get out into, what we call adulting, where you have real responsibilities and real problems, and a lot of people end up buckling. Like, that's part of the reason why more adults than ever are on antidepressant, anti-anxiety, medicines that really, honestly and truthfully, they probably shouldn't be on. At least not in the numbers that they are, but it's just the fact that we have failed in equipping children how to deal with real life. And that's the whole purpose of school. It's the whole purpose of college. It's not to, teach you some skill, trade, or form to, go off into the world and actually do something with yourself, per se. Honestly, that's more what technical schools are geared towards. No, college is the social construct that is intended to teach you how to better tackle the world than your peers. It is to give you the tools to be able to navigate the world better than your peers. And we have stopped allowing schools to do that, and instead have taught them that, instead of making sure that kids are ready for the world, no, we just need to change the world around these kids to match the idea that we have of what the world should be like for them. And that's a great disservice to kids because once again, you get out into the real world and you just start expecting that people are going to be nice and that no one ever says anything cross to you and that, oh man, if you get tired or stressed out, maybe you should go over to your safe space with your cuddle blanket and
Or maybe the puppy room at some offices.
The puppy room and, be able to woosah when, no. And, in the same breath, people also wonder why businesses are electing to go to other countries. And I mean, I have a newsflash, like it's not always cheaper labor. It's really not, especially the companies that relocated to Europe because, well, social programs. Like, I just need more of your money. But in the same breath, they're also not afraid to work. Most of them. So, I mean, everything that we do has this whole 360 effect that not a lot of people want to sit back and think about. But getting back to the whole subject of the school, it's just really sad that, nobody was like, oh man, we need to control guns, or oh man, let's go march on this school, or let's go hear from these kids. Like, nah, it was a 2-paragraph article that popped up in my Google feed, and if it had not been for that, I would have never heard of it.
Thanks, Google.
Exactly. But at the same time, you can't turn on the radio, open up your phone, turn on the TV, nothing without hearing about the shooting in Florida. And one could argue that it has something to do with the amount of bodies that were dropped. Maybe.
But doesn't all life matter?
One would think so. But even to that extent, like, where are the activists on this one?
Activists are kind of like, the other day, I was watching the Mike Tyson Mysteries. Actually, a very entertaining cartoon. Like, I didn't think he would be funny, but he's quite hilarious. But anyway, he's sitting in his living room, and he's talking to the ghost that works for him at the detective agency. I know, a bit random. But anyway, they're watching the California State Bears play somebody else. And he's like, yeah, Bears. And then the Bears start to lose. And he just jumps to the other team. And the ghost is like, what? He's like, oh, I'm Fairweather. Go this, read this, blah, 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 blah. And the Bears come back. He's like, yeah, Bears. They've been my team since blah, 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 blah. And the ghost is like, what is going on here? That's the problem. We want to hop on a cause when it's sexy, it's new, it's popping, it's dope, it's fresh. We want to hop back off the cause when it actually takes time to solve a problem. But we will never solve any of these problems in America unless you can sit down and have a very real discussion. Because anyone I try to have that real discussion with, if I don't agree with your views, I'm an Uncle Tom, I'm not right, I'm misunderstood, I can't read, ill-informed, or if I agree with you, then it's all fine. And I'm like, I don't think this is what anybody in civil rights wants. I don't think they wanted you to be free to think like me. I'm pretty sure it was just to think on your own. And people have very different experiences and that. And so it's just, I feel like we're setting these children up for failure. We failed these children too. And none of this will ever be solved until people can sit down, have opposing viewpoints, and meet somewhere in the middle of a common ground. But I will tell you this, although I have not a child that's not a child deciding any of these things, if someone tries to take my Second Right Amendment to hold a gun, to bear arms, and I don't mean short sleeves, you will get all sorts of Duchess protests because that is my right as an American.
That is true.
And people should be prouder to protect those. America is the world's greatest social experiment. It started with a couple of boats and a couple of saws. It didn't go so great in the beginning. And now we're the true sense of the word. You can come here and be anything. And I do mean anything. You can go to the Pimps and Hoes ball. You can become president. You can own your own company and become a millionaire. You can not own nothing and live in a box. Like, you can do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And people take advantage of that. And they don't care about that. And that's what's sad.
That is what's sad. But, speaking of rights, this actually our second topic was the...
Call me segue.
I'm just saying. That way. But, it was the continued discussion of the NFL protests, which I know are probably going to become a more mainstream thing again once football season picks back up.
Do you think the Marines will still be sponsoring it? Because, I don't watch football, but I know anytime I see a commercial, It's usually the Marines commercial. He's wearing his get up with the sword, the saber. I think that's called a sword, but it's hot. It's a good look. You should keep that. It's a hot look.
You know, they are always
It's a
always
hot
about
look.
that. Yeah, always about that presentation. Let me tell
Except
you.
for the little PT shorts. Those are a very cold look. So we should, the silkies, we can let that.
That's fair. But you know, there was a discussion on the Debate with Friends board that like at first I was just gonna comment on, and then as the comments kept flowing, I was like, okay, maybe I should probably address this. I mean,
I feel like
okay,
it's never good when you start rubbing your ear before you talk.
it's probably not, in all honesty.
I just, you know.
The posts, you know, for anybody who's actually listening, it is actually one of the first posts that is up on stage still at this point.
Yay!
But it's actually a meme by Black Adam Schaefer, who, you know, we kind of reposted, but he poses the question. He says, let me get this straight. Every day, 20 veterans commit suicide and 40,000 sleep on the street. But kneeling during the anthem, quote unquote, disrespects our soldiers. So, you know, of course, comments started flowing in on each side. And, like, I kind of take this one personally as a veteran and, you know, as this Duchess, as former army wife. But,
We're kind of like the dark former.
you know, that's fair. That's fair. But, you know, one of the topics came about the actual action of kneeling. And I remember I was telling you that I kind of wanted to address this because I feel like there's some, I guess, misconceptions on each side about this. So, as a veteran, and especially with the job that I did in the military, reading body language is a big part of your job. As a matter of fact, it is something that very well, in many situations, could end up being the difference between life and death. If you can, you know, identify that nervous person in the crowd, you could probably stop something bad from happening before it happens. Conversely, if you notice aggression from a crowd, but not so much so from these individuals within the crowd, then you know who is and is not part of the impending action. So being able to read body language and knowing what body language means is a big part of that job. And so the comment was made that, you know, kneeling is a form of reverence. You know, if I'm not mistaken, there was actually, you know, I guess, okay, let me actually read the comment that was put up. And this user said that actually taking a knee has always been a sign of reverence, not disrespect. A fact that people have twisted since the entire ordeal started. The fact that veterans are treated the way they are in spite of fighting for a country that swore to treat and protect them with respect and dignity says I'm assuming a whole lot about that country and the flag it represents. So in my opinion, the topics are one and the same, being the treatment of veterans and for the flag. So kind of going back to the whole body language topic, kneeling has never been a form of reverence. Kneeling has always been a form of submission. You kneel in front of a monarch to show your lower status. You kneel when you pray to show your submission to your God.
Oh, wait, if you meet us, you kneel to us because of our superior nobilities being the Duke and the Duchess. I just want to throw that in there,
too. You know, fair enough. But kneeling is not necessarily a sign of reverence to anyone but the person who is kneeling. To everyone around them, it is a form of submission. You are submitting yourself to the person that you kneel before. This is the same reason why when dogs are in trouble, usually the first thing they do is lay down. It is a form of submission. So I get that in the sense of these protests, it was not intended to be a form of submission, but I just wanted to go ahead and throw that out there in terms of what body language actually means. not what you intend it to mean, but what it actually means. And to that point, it's not necessarily one and the same. We were talking earlier about veterans and kind of to understand veterans, you kind of have to understand the mindset of a military service member. Service members are taught from the moment that they put on a uniform, your life is no longer about you as an individual. It is about us as the group. And that is something that every veteran carries with them from the moment that they put on the uniform for the first time to the moment that they take it off for the last time. And even after that, I myself personally, I have plenty of benefits and options and things that are available to me that I don't use, not because I can't use them or I don't qualify for them or they're not being offered anymore, anything like that. It is literally the fact that you sacrifice so long and so much that it becomes ingrained as part of your psyche. And so a lot of the times I don't take advantage of things that I probably could because I don't feel like I am the most deserving of veterans to take them. I would rather somebody, like if I'm going to go use VA benefits for, let's say my knee or my elbow or something like that, I would rather somebody who doesn't have a leg or doesn't have an arm get in that line before me.
I agree.
And so that is kind of the mindset of even a lot of homeless veterans. You hear several stories about homeless veterans helping the cops or, saving kids who get caught in gang fights or that are, rescuing animals that are lost, anything like that, because regardless of what has happened in their personal life, at the end of the day, they are still those people. Yes. And so it is not a lot of times. Now, I will say that no government is actually adept at taking care of all of its citizens all the time. Now, I'm not saying that at all. But what I am saying is that for the amount of veterans that are out on the street, a lot of the times, it is just the fact that either A, they didn't take advantage of the services offered to them, or B, they tried to take advantage of those services and were, misdiagnosed, mistreated, etc., but not necessarily by the government, but by the people who were supposed to get them in touch with those services.
Right.
But again, that's not to say that the country or the government itself isn't standing with them, isn't providing these things, isn't doing any of that. It is to say that there is a lot of things that go on in between on both sides that probably do need to be worked out, but aren't necessarily the fault of either side. Now, bringing it back to the protests, I don't feel like kneeling for the anthem is the same as the government mistreating veterans. Because again, I don't know of too many cases, and I know, veterans everywhere always make the joke or make the point that, the only thing that the military is good at doing is screwing its own people. I've even made this same claim myself.
Well, they did have the thing with the VA and the people were getting bad appointments and that, but I think they ironed the better part of those kinks out.
And that is very true. And once again, the VA is what is called a government enterprise. It is not technically part of the government. It is its own business, which is why the presidents and the CEOs in the VA and the directors in the VA can get bonuses. That's the whole purpose behind it. They do get a vast majority of their money from government funds because you take care of former government employees. But you are still, at the end of the day, a private business. And with that being the case, yeah, the VA itself does have a lot of issues. Even still, I mean, they've worked out a lot, but they still have a lot. But it is also not the only place that veterans can go. And to that extent, it's also not the most accessible of means for a lot of veterans to go to. I think back to if I were in South Carolina, there are only two places in South Carolina that have VA clinics, not even hospitals, but clinics, and that is in the capital and in Charleston. Um, if you're not in one of those two places, or you don't, for whatever reason, have access to them, you just have to go to wherever is closer. And I think that um, by the time that President Bush got out of office, and a lot of those things were recognized as a lot of people were getting out of the military again, um, they tried to put into works a process by which you could go in, apply through the VA for your, or I shouldn't say apply, but register your medical status, and then you would get, like a medical information card, basically an insurance card, yeah, so that you could go somewhere else. Because even if I live across the street from a VA hospital, if I go on vacation, something happens to me, I still need to be able to get to wherever the nearest hospital is. Um, so, again, and I know even in Dallas, they just opened up a huge complex specifically to help homeless veterans.
Well, and they have a program to put, like, if the complex is full, they have vouchers they can take to some sites, and the VA pays their first 6 months rent, 8 months rent, depending on level of disability. And a lot of times, the management company will then cut the rent in half, so, like, your dollar is now stretched twice as far. I will say that I think that's one thing that red states do amazingly well.
And that's fair. And even to some extent, blue states, because, it still
Name
falls...
me one.
Okay, I can't. But I'm just saying, like, you like to spend money anyway, so...
But you want to spend money on what you've decided is important.
On your constituency?
Yes.
Might as well go ahead and say that. But, again, sports are one of the few unifiers to the world. Every 4 years, we have the Olympics. And it is a chance for all nations to put aside any beefs that they have and come together around these sports. Whether it be the summer games or the winter games, it doesn't matter, because we are all here to compete. And every time some country wins, we stand for their anthem. Yeah. Because, again, it is a sign of respect.
Whether we like them or not. Even Hitler's people stood, not the first time, but the second time.
Exactly. But, that's all I'm getting at. No other country in the world ever once kneeled when these anthems were being played because they were showing some form of reverence. No. Honestly, I can respect your country, but I'm not submitting to your country. Because, again, that's what it means. But whenever you take that unifier of sport and you start polarizing it, what else do we as a people, or even as the human race, have to coalesce around? I mean, at the end of the day, I can't really think of anything else in the world. We can rally around playing sport. Well, okay. So let me really honestly, okay, so we just, thanks, Chris, I should probably say that we'll never come out again. But we just got a list from Chris of the worst states for military retirees. And so about how I figured they would work out. And we found New Hampshire, and not that one. But the president won't be true. It's such a joke. So, the number one on the list was Florida, and the last one, which I don't even feel like should really be on this list, but I like it because it just further proves my point. District of Columbia. But it can't be on the list because District of Columbia is not actually a state. Oh, yeah, I realize that people
representatives of both legislative assemblies, but he had time.
I mean, that's fair. But, no one can hear that, because...
I'll tell everybody from DC.
Oh, that's just...
It's a thing. It's the truth.
Sad.
You don't like it?
I feel you. There's so many more laws.
I
mean, obviously. But, I guess, what is your take on that?
So, I have to say, I grew up with kids with disabilities. My father and my grandfather were both in the service long before I was ever born. So I have no recollection of being around army kids, like anything like that. So when I met you and you were going to a military college and then eventually joined the service, it was a completely new experience for me. And I have to say, of all the soldiers that I have met in this experience, I don't think we recognize the ability enough of people who are going to die for people they will never ever meet. And the training and what you put people through, and not even just the families. You know, I've always, like, if I see people on the street and I have dollars and I understand that I have no problem partying any of that. But it wasn't until we were at Fort Campbell and the people started coming home and you just saw the struggle of transition for people that you don't realize just the toll that this profession takes on people, that you make pennies on the dollars to government contractors. I will never forget, I was coming in '84, and there was a guy holding up, there was a four-way, holding up the traffic, and he was trying to set himself on fire because no one would help him. And I had to think about stuff like that. You've done 3-4 tours, you've lost your spouse, your kids don't know who you are, you've been gone, you didn't feel like you're part of society. And then people want to speak for you in cases like this. I don't think that's what they want at all. I have to tell you that most everyone I know, I don't think they even want recognition for the things they do because they're kind of like the silent donors, the people who just aren't hung up on those things. But I hate for people to take this and football and equate it.
Ladies and gentlemen, we apologize for that. We've been seeing some quick technical difficulties. This is Professor John Gotti here to give you your commercial break. If you like Debate Amongst Friends and you want to catch it any other time, be sure to follow our Facebook page at Debate Amongst Friends, our Facebook group at Debate Amongst Friends as well too. You can also enjoy our Twitter account, which is at Debate Amongst Fra. You can also reach out and follow our Instagram account at Debate Amongst Friends. You can also follow the Duke at Duke of Pigeons. Once again, this is Professor John Gotti, and we'll get you back to the action. Duke, Duchess is back all to you.
You know, appreciate that.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel like this is brought to you by Beer Water. You know. But I just think that I don't think they're equivalent. And I don't like people implying they're equivalent. And I also feel like if you don't have some relation to it, you should even hop on the it's equivalent or it's not equivalent bandwagon. Like, I don't know the plight of being an immigrant. So you know who I don't talk about? The plight of being an immigrant. It's just not what I touch on because it's not my box. But I have seen the toll that war and these things take on people and their families. And I feel like we owe them an infinite debt. People always want to be like you were telling me earlier when the guy was like, soldiers are the dumb lowest love. But these soldiers kept you from learning German in World War II. They kept you from the British to make America. You know, we don't speak Arabic. Women don't wear, covering up. Like, for all these soldiers that you feel like aren't smart, aren't this, aren't that, you're still free. And somebody is doing that.
That's fair. And I mean, again, just because of the type of breed that soldiers are, you usually will never hear those stories. Soldiers are always, or I shouldn't even say soldiers, service people, service members. There we go. We are always taught to suck it up and drive forward. Oh man, you're missing your leg. Screw it, you got another one. Suck it up and drive forward.
I mean, that's no different than a guy who was with you and lost his foot.
Exactly. And, a week later, he was making jokes about getting his shoes half off now. Um, it's one of those things. It's literally, you get the mentality to suck it up and drive forward, because just like being able to read body language, um, just like being able to read body language, it's one of those things that you need in order to survive in the military. You know, whether it's the minute or the major, it doesn't really matter. Still have to suck it up and drive forward. And so when vets turn home, a lot of the times it's the biggest transition is you don't have necessarily adversity in your life to suck up and drive forward from.
Right.
But adversely, you also will not hear soldiers complain about their own problems because they just learn to suck it up and drive forward.
But I enjoyed the community that came around him. I have to tell you, I don't even remember his first name because he told us to call him Tink Tink, and that's what we left it at. But, like, this company and the spouses did such a good job rallying around you that it was like you still had your foot. I mean, we got your girlfriend there. They got married. They have a baby. He gave them gifts. He comes to the house. Like, it's such a community of people who just are. I think about your friends from college. You all still are friendly. And it's kind of like it's like joining a fraternity. It just has a whole lot more members. And this is one of those things. Like, if you're somewhere and you see another soldier, be it airman or navalman or whatever, there's that camaraderie there. And you still want to help, even
Right.
though, when we say Army Navy, it's all us versus you. But that's the thing. That's like the one thing that, like, I loved about you being in the Army. And like I was a cheerleader for some number of years, and it just gave me a bigger platform. I should probably really have a kid, just yay all the time. But I thought that was like, was good. And I hope that we can just go back to football, speak about football. I think the NFL should really consider kind of like the same agreements you guys signed when you joined about how you're not giving a political opinion in your ACUs. In your ACUs, you are service member, blah, blah, or captain, blah, blah. That's it. Should you want to give an opinion, you need to get out. Put on your regular clothes. And don't give your opinion as former captain such and such. No, you're Billy, and Billy feels like this. Because I think this is exactly what happens. Everybody was all applauding when Stephon Curry didn't want to go to the White House because they won the NBA championships. And I was like, whether you like Trump, dislike Trump, whatever, at the end of the day, he's not King Trump. Best case, 8 years. Worst case, 4 years. Do you know what will still exist after all this time? Office, the presidency. And even if you don't like him, you have to respect that office. To put it on in basketball terms, I'm not a Kobe fan, but I can't sleep on Kobe as the MVP.
Same.
That's just it. Like, and I just think it's awful that people applauded you, in my opinion, actually immature. If you don't like the policy that Donald Trump has, I don't know, sitting in his office, but cameras around, seems like a really good time to bring up any of this stuff.
I'm just saying.
You're gonna shut me down, you're gonna throw me out, that's even more to the point. So here you go. And I think it's sad that people are hung up on Trump and not the office and the totality of this, and that history will remember what we all do and how we all treat this. It's not the first president that's going to be unliked by people, and he won't be the last one. And I just feel like it's immature, and people get hung up on these things, and I'm like, solve a problem or shut up.
Pretty much.
Sit in your corner and color, do you?
Well, and it's funny because in the same comment thread, our own Doc hopped on and made the correlation between the national anthem and the Pledge of Allegiance. And he was like, well, we shouldn't make kids say, or actually, you know what? No, I'm not even going to talk like that. Let me actually go back. Again, he was saying that kneeling in football only happens when someone is hurt. In this case, Colin, being Kaepernick, took a knee because of injured African American women in America, which is a field of its own. Um, okay. I really don't understand, or I really don't think it should offend vets at all because of America's freedom of speech. It would be hypocritical to take this freedom of speech away when people rally, support, march, etc., for things they believe in. In most cases, people have been forced to pledge allegiance to the flag since we were children. We didn't have a choice. So why would one pledge allegiance if the symbol they are pledging to doesn't protect all those who pledge? And save, I'm assuming he says say. Um, the leave this country answers for someone or somewhere else. If there was an opportunity, those people would leave.
Can I go first?
Go for it.
And it should not feel some way about what I said. I'll hop on Wednesday, you come on next Sunday. Kneeling is an auditory. It's not written. It's an action. You have the freedom to open your mouth and let something come out or to write. Even then, your rights do stop at once. And as for pledging the allegiance to the flag, it's not a contract. I mean, let's just all back up there. How many times have you told a sibling you're sorry and you were not remotely meaning of it? It's just symbolic, but it is meant to teach you pride in your country. And that's what I feel like all these people aren't getting. You had people who came here with nothing. They flew or fled a government that was oppressing them. In England, you couldn't get out of the gentry class or being poor without fucking up in some noble fellow's love with you or making your money in trade. But even then, you now had to take your daughter, married to some old absolute earl, to get this title in your family. You're very stuck. Very caste system. Same thing in India. These people came here because they didn't want any of that. And they started something that is just beyond all of us. It's bigger than Colin Kaepernick. It's bigger than football. It's bigger than you and me sitting here. It's bigger than all of us. And we should teach our children to be proud of that. We are the one country in the world who has never lost a conflict. You're the only one that doesn't have to salute up. You have tons of monuments to things that people did, and they weren't all, whatever. We got Lois and Clark, the Indian, going around finding uncharted pieces of parts of America. You have the Oregon Trail. You have people going out and being industrious and making their own thing. And no other country has a history like that. I'm sorry that I want to stand up with your hand over your heart, grease for the flag. You don't like it? Bounce. You got all kind of places you can go. Your Iceland's great this time of year. Greenland's probably popping. You got England. You can go to Saudi Arabia. You can go to because as far as I'm concerned, if you don't want to have pride in what your ancestors have done, fuck you. That's all I have to say about it. No.
I mean, that's fair. Myself, I am not of the opinion to tell anyone to leave because, there's a few things in there that I'm going to tackle. Again, your freedom of speech is, very much so that's what you want to do, then that's okay. But all actions have consequences. And to say that because someone is exercising their freedoms, regardless of what said freedoms are, that it shouldn't offend vets is absolute nonsense. Vets are also people. They also feel. They also have opinions. Even if, while they're in uniform, they're not allowed to exercise them. They're still there. And there is nothing like telling someone who went overseas to protect freedoms or even who fought here in the U.S. I mean, there are no more of them left alive, but let's just, step out on the assumption. There is nothing like telling that person who left their family and left their friends with no guarantee of coming back to them and saw the new friends that they've made be killed literally feet or sometimes inches from them, all in striving for this ideal or for this ideology, to then come back and be like, regardless of what I do, you shouldn't be offended. That is ludicrous. I mean, again, we are all people and we all have feelings. And, I agree that people should be able to exercise their rights, but that does not mean that just because you exercise your rights, that no one is supposed to have an issue with it. That's no different than people exercising their Second Amendment right and people getting up in arms about it. I mean, it's not that is one and the same. But as far as the pledge and the anthem, they are two different things. There's a reason why we don't call the pledge the anthem and the anthem the pledge. Again, the pledge is intended to instill some form of national pride in children. And the reason that we do that is really honestly, it is assimilation. It is regardless of what these kids' backgrounds are, where they come from, or what their parents do. We all together stand up, usually at the beginning of class or the beginning of the day, and we say the pledge. Everyone knows it. Everyone says it. At the end of the day, that is it. No one is obligating these children to wear a uniform or go fight for their country or to even, once they get finished with the pledge, say something that they don't agree with. The pledge is purely intended to inspire kids to associate and have pride for the country that they currently reside in. Whereas the anthem is the symbol of the country. It stands arm in arm with the flag. It is what every other country in the world, regardless of size or location, knows us for. When that pledge comes, that anthem comes, or when that flag waves, then they know those are signs of America. And so to say that it is inconsequential or that it doesn't matter, I mean, maybe not to some people, but again, it's not, intended to mean the same thing for all people. However, it is the representative of the country. When all of our bones are dust, hopefully the flag will still fly and the anthem will still play. That is what every service member who puts on a uniform, past, present, and future, fights to preserve. Is that ideal? So, I mean, I don't know.
I just have to say, that being equated to some football player who didn't get it his way, who makes well above what the average minimum is, grew up middle class, and can go get a job with the degree he got for free from this school, to equate that to this, it's ridiculous. We saw people whose parents didn't come home. 4 and 5-year-old children bawling at hangars. People watching people be blown up. Horrible things. Horrible things. And you won't even tell me all of them. And to equate that to this one guy who felt like standing was whatever, it is unconscionable. It is capitalizing off of murder. And he's an awful person. And everybody who likes him, you should really take a look into that. This is awful. So many broken families. So many broken marriages. Broken people. People who now can't go be a part of normal society. And they're broken, like Schrader from jumping out of planes. Your knees aren't even your knees anymore. But damn it, if you don't get in the fight line every day and jump. So many people who gave so much stuff. And not even just these wars. Let's talk about the Buffalo Soldiers and the Red Tails. So many people who fought for this equality for us to be able to do this. And then this is what we do back. I'm sorry. It's just.
Well, and I mean, I'm actually glad that you brought that up because I get tired of people that, I talk to or that I have conversations with wanting to circle everything back to the hidden hand of racism. And I'm kind of like, the 60s weren't that long ago. They were about, 50, 60 years ago at this point. But not that long ago. Like, we can still, for the most part, point to anybody who either grew up in or were a part of the civil rights movement. And even when you look back on what was happening then and the laws enforced by states and the federal government then compared to now, it always boggles my mind how people can say that the country is just as racist as it's ever been. I'm like, I don't know of any laws that are racist in their implication. Now, I will say, there are a few gun control laws that are, overtly racist and that have actually been found to be racist. And so I'm sure that there are probably others on the books. However, they are not written in such a way to exclude one group of people. It usually includes mass groups of people, or multiple groups of people. But my question to them is always, if we are more racist now than we were in the 60s, how did that happen? Where in this time period did we go wrong between the mass jumps in civil rights, the affirmative action, the school choice programs, the lowering of standards on SAT scores for minority students as compared to white or really even Asian students, because they have to score higher than all of us to be able to get the same score. How, in all of this time, with all of these things happening, did we end up more racist than in the 60s? Like, it always boggles my mind. And whenever someone says that there is institutional racism, I always ask, well, what institution is racist? Like, again, I'm not saying that racism doesn't exist. I'm not saying that it's not real. I'm not saying that there aren't racist people out there. But what I am saying is that before you can point to a group of people or an institution of people and say that they are racist, you kind of need to come with some fact of truth to say they are racist. Here is the racist thing they did. Because most people can't do that. Racism has now not become, I guess, something real, like a very real, I guess I'll say clear and present danger. Thanks, Harrison Ford. It's not that anymore. Now it is the boogeyman. It is the dark hand in the corner of the room that we all avoid because no one knows what's over there. But that's what we use to keep everyone in this frenzy, to keep them all in check, to keep them all over here on this side of the fence. Because without that, everybody might actually start thinking for themselves. But as long as we can make you believe that this is in fact racist, then you'll never go over there. You'll never explore the dark corner. And it just bugs me. It really, really bugs me. Especially when parents teach their children stuff like that. Like, it used to be a truth that every generation of parents wanted their kids to grow up and be smarter, to do more, to go places that they never would have thought possible for them in their generation. But somewhere along the line, over the past 2 generations or so, it became the norm to start holding your kids back. To say, hey, you shouldn't do that because racism. Or, hey, you know they don't like you. You'll never be able to accomplish this. I would never want to tell my kid that because of something that I can't see, touch, feel, or explain, that there's some hidden shadowy organization out there that doesn't want them to be successful because, I don't know, racism. I would never want them to grow up believing that. Even if that was the case, I would never want them to grow up believing that, because I am now clipping their wings before they ever have gotten a chance to fly. And it really hurts me that in this country, this grand social experiment where millions of people every year have brought their children, left their families, died in the process of getting here, all in some vain attempt to have a better life or to provide a better life for their family, that in all of that, we as Americans who have grown up with this mass wealth of freedom are sitting here squandering it over what amounts to pettiness. Like, I've been to other countries in the world, both in the Middle East, in Asia, and in Europe. And I have seen the type of blatant and overt oppression that goes on in a lot of these places. I mean, for instance, I was in Kuwait a handful of years ago, and one thing that not a lot of people realize about Kuwait is that they have a good deal of Oriental immigrants. And it sounds kind of weird, so of course I had to dig into it. But apparently, it is a lot easier to go from an Oriental country, so Laos, Thailand, Cambodia, those countries. It is easier for them to get into Kuwait or into Saudi Arabia or into United Arab Emirates, and then apply for passports from there to come into the U.S. And so that's what they do. They save up their money. They leave the Orient. They go to the Middle East. They take, jobs that, basically jobs that those people don't want to do. So, they're maids, they're house workers, they're sanitation workers, they're, all of these jobs that now, the Kuwaitis or the Saudis feel that they are too good to do themselves. And they will save their coins again. They will pay the ridiculous fee to those governments because, oh, wait, those governments don't actually want you to leave. You serve a purpose here. So they'll save up their money for years. They'll pay this ridiculous fee to go ahead and get their passport. And then they'll try to get themselves into America where they have to start this again for the third time in their life. But to them, it is worth it because they know that when they get here, that they can go on to open businesses, or they can, once they're here, they can bring their families over straight from the Orient. And it was especially troubling to me that, as she was talking about, the person that I was talking to, as she was talking about, being able to go to the U.S., and you could just hear the excitement in her voice because she knew that she was close. By her estimation, she had about a year left before she would have enough money to be able to pay this fee and get her passport her pass exchange, I think is what they actually call it there, to be able to go into the U.S. But at the same time, she was fearful because so many of the other women that she had come with, which I also did not realize, a lot of those countries pick and choose who they want to come in, which any sovereign country is, well within their rights to do. But unfortunately, they usually, 9 times out of 10, pick women. And again, it's just because, sadly, when you separate a husband from a wife or a woman from her family, it just makes her a lot more vulnerable. And so what was happening was a lot of these women were being paid in cash, every week or every month, or however often they were being paid in cash. And then they were being robbed in their neighborhoods. And in a lot of cases, they were being kidnapped, robbed, raped, and left in the desert. But because they were not citizens of fill-in country, no one really looked into it that much. They just figured, oh, well, she must have left. And so she was fearful because she knew that even that day, sitting there talking to me, that she could go back to her apartment in the city, and that very well could have been her. But even knowing this, it was still worth it to her to go through this process just to come into the U.S. And I kind of sat back and I was like, man, she didn't say Canada, she didn't say Britain, she didn't say none of that. She said the U.S. That was the only other country that she wanted to go to. And it just made me personally appreciative that I didn't have to go through that. I mean, are we the best country to have ever been founded? Probably not. But at the same time, I don't think we're doing nearly as bad as a lot of people think that we are. And honestly, if I could, and God, do I hope I have Bill Gates' money one day, because I used to have a instructor when I was in school who would tell us every day. He was like, if you do not feel like this is the best country in the world, if you feel like you want to leave, let me know. I'll buy you the ticket. It'll be one way. You can figure out your own way back, assuming that you want to come back. But for all of our problems, we are still the best place to be. And it didn't actually click in my mind, the truth to that statement, until I talked to her. So, I mean, I really want people who were born here, who grew up here, who have never truly experienced another country. And I don't mean you went to some place and you lived the touristy side of life. No, like you went to the favelas, you went to the barrios, you went to the shanty shacks in the center of this country, and you actually talked to the people and, let them, I wouldn't say do this because it's kind of mean, but just ask them the question and find out, hey, I have an extra ticket. Who wants to come back with me? And see how many hands go up. The reason I say don't do this is because it's a really good way to get shanked, and, that it almost happened one time. But, again, it's just amazing. The fact that people are like, heck yeah, let's go. Because we are the example to a lot of people in the world. Even the ones that hate us, if you offered to let them come, they probably would. And so, I mean, I don't necessarily agree with the fact that if you gave people the opportunity, they would flee. I really don't. I mean, again, we are the freest country in the world. No other country in the world, factually proven, no other country in the world has the amount of freedoms and rights that we do. So I don't know what part of anything that is keeping people from fleeing. I mean, screw it. You can drive into Canada or Mexico. I mean, hell, you can take a bus.
You can drive to Europe.
I mean, you can go to the Caribbean and take a water taxi. There are ways out of the country that are not that expensive. So I don't know who's, forcibly keeping people locked up here, but there is most definitely a reason why you don't see a mass exodus from the U.S. And that is usually because even the people who complain about it realize that there's probably not another place that they would want to live. I mean, it just is what it is.
That's quite true. That was a very serious topic. I feel a little weighed down by that, I can't lie.
That's fair.
And but crying on a Sunday and all this nonsense.
Blowing up on a Tuesday. No, I honestly, I had to get that one out because
I understand.
A lot of people usually end up asking me within our circle of friends. I am usually the only, if not one of the only, veterans in that circle. And so, whenever stuff like that pops up, I always feel like I need to put the team up on my back and just toss my opinions out there. You can take them, leave them. I really don't care. I just want it to be known, to be stated, so that no one can ever come back and be like, well, you never said. Screw that. This is what it is.
No, I think that's important. And if someone had an opposing view, I'm completely open to someone countering in a debate. But it needs to be civil. It needs to have a point. There should be facts, figures, maybe a bar graph of some sort. And there we go from there.
Well, and that's true. And it's really sad because a lot of people nowadays don't actually want to have that conversation. Regardless of how uncomfortable it is, what you really want is for the opposing side to just take your viewpoint as the truth and move on with the topic. And that's not at all how debates work.
Oh, you mean like the other day when the black guy was saying how the Republicans don't care about black people? And I was like, hey, strange side fact, history person. The Republican Party was the first party to allow black people to join. And actually, the Democrats in the South used to be quite racist. As a matter of fact, they were called Dixiecrats. And I just want to point that out. But don't mind me over here. Just Google it. Let me know.
I mean, that's fair. And again, our shows, on our, Business Amongst Friends, the headliner of them is Debate Amongst Friends. The name of this channel is Duke It Out. Like, these are formats that are made to have a topic and to have a debate, and whether it's lively or whether it's dark, it doesn't really matter. We all get together and we talk about things that affect all of us in our own personal lives. And, that is what it is. I'm happy to have this format because I feel like I can reach a lot more people and hear back from a lot more people about their views, and how maybe, hopefully, at the end of the day, I grow as a person because of it. But again, in order to do so, you have to be able to put yourself out there. You have to be able to share um, your opinion or your views, and you have to be able to back it up.
That's quite true.
That's just like on our, top 5 list with the top 5 dead or alive. Like, you got to be able to justify your 5. Like, you can't just come up here with some garbage and be like, oh, that's what it is.
I do have to say, amongst this little group, though, we probably all should have gone to law school, because I feel like all of us just particularly enjoy this part of it. Sometimes you just take a week because it's Tuesday, and that's what we do.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But speaking of,
we need a soundboard. Can someone put that on the next capital improvements list or something?
I asked Scott. Apparently, we don't have the funds, and that is what it is.
Okay,
so
I'll get us a sponsor, but it's probably gonna be like the NRA. So I think I should know that.
Hey, that's cool. Whatever makes money. Anywho,
because it is not black nor white.
Anyhoozles, we do have the results of the online poll for, last episode's top 5 favorite sidekicks between yourself, Professor Gotti, and myself. And actually, I'm a little disappointed. Like, this is my show. I put some fair thought into this, but I didn't win. So I don't know how to feel about that.
I just feel like you were sleeping on me. Like, that's exactly what I think it is, which is alarming because you've known me for the past 15 years.
I think we need a recount. That's what I think.
I don't have to do nothing. I'm like T.I. I don't want no mediocre. I got A1 money. I do A1 host, the whole thing. Like, that's just me all the time. You know this. But you know what? It's important that I do that because it's Teen Talks.
I suppose so, yes.
But anyway, just for fun, announce the winner!
There was a tie. Yeah. There was a tie between the Duchess and the Professor. So, is the Professor back in the sound booth? Is he?
He's probably out dancing about the tie.
That's quite possible.
He and they're like.
Yeah. I'll just send Chris out to go get you. So,
are you over there dripping in finesse?
So, here's what we're going to do. Because this is my show, and because I didn't win.
Is salty about that?
A little bit, yeah.
Life is about how we lose graciously.
Yeah, and this is about to be real gracious.
Whatever.
So, we are going to have a sudden death showdown right here on the show.
This sounds violent.
I know, right? Each of you are going to pick one sidekick who was not on your list, justify them, and I will choose the winner. Word.
I'm not. I don't hate this. Okay.
Word. So, we will flip a coin to see who goes first.
I vote Sean goes first. This is Women's History Month. It would be quite rare to give it to me as the girl.
But me being a Southern gentleman, I'm going to let the lady go first.
Oh!
You're from New Jersey, which is not in the South. It is above the Mason-Dixon.
I'm still a gentleman, so I'm going to let the lady go first.
He says South Jersey.
Yeah, I'm from the South Side.
So, Duchess, the ball is to you.
I'm not even sure what to say right now. I have to be like 100%. Like, I'm like slowly fascinated. All right.
That's fair. So everybody phones and mouse Mises down. We're doing this straight off the dome.
Apparently.
Yep.
So, best sidekick. You know who I'm gonna pick? Because we can go anywhere. I am gonna go with Ethel from I Love Lucy. Because she was down for Lucy's cause every time. Ricky said, don't go out there. She doing her Cuban Pete behind the wreck. Ricky said, you can't make no wine. I'm right next to you in the bucket, stepping on it. We at the chocolate factory together. No matter how many times I done said, Fred don't like this. Where's she at? Right there. You are the downest chick ever. And that's why I'm going to go Ethel. Play with it. Mic drop.
Professor, it's on you now. It's on you now. The shot has been fired.
I don't know. I feel like that's more of a, atomic bomb drop right there. I mean, she did a leg drop and everything afterwards. I mean, I have no clue.
Like, I thought I heard
Follow up
some
something like
music
that.
out there.
I mean, come on.
Like, hey, everybody here like, hey. Everybody's like, okay, okay. But then Ethel will come in. Who the actress is dead now, so maybe not. But whatever.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, like I don't want to take this moment to toot my own horn, but that was a really good one.
That was actually really, really good.
That's fair. That's fair. And the crowd eagerly waits as he sets up his shot.
After he says this, I'll tell you what I more thought.
I'm gonna choose Sakura Kusanagi from Street Fighter. Here's why. We have a high school schoolgirl who basically abandons her dream to become a Street Fighter, to be like the guy that she's looking up to, the guy that she'll ride or die for, Ryu. To the point that she started dressing like him. There's many, many different parodies talking about how obsessed she is. That was not canon until the latest version of Street Fighter V, when she just came out in Season 3. She now wants that Ryu-san, if you know what I mean. So not only has she given up her regular, normal aspirations, being from a Japanese background, getting into a certain job and doing certain things. She ended up working for an arcade, which is more in line of like the growth of the FGC community, but that's besides the point. But in her early life crisis, because she's trying to figure out what she wants to do, she suddenly realized while having her conversation with her master, and I'm using that with a grain of salt, ladies and gentlemen, that it dawned on her, I want those skin, dog.
Oh boy. All right. Okay. All right.
I don't know. She sounds a little Jubilee-ish. I don't know about that.
No. Jubilee is like a earthworm compared to Sakura. At least people like Sakura over Jubilee.
First of all, Jubilee's jacket, 12. Like, solid 12. The little yellow jacket, popping.
That's the only thing that's 12. Everything else is sub 3.
We win some, we lose some.
Okay. But
Sakura
you know what?
Has been referenced in so many different elements of video games and comics and stuff. So, I mean,
I'm gonna have to give this one to Duchess, and I'm gonna tell you why.
because if you don't, you're gonna end up sleeping outside tonight.
No. It's not even that. Like it's a pretty cool night outside. No, I'm gonna give it to her.
And if it's sad, we on the next floor. I wouldn't know. I wouldn't hear it. So,
I'm gonna give it to her based purely on the fact of more mass appeal. That is the determining factor for me.
Hey, I can
She
accept
is
that.
more well known, yet more obscure.
I have to tell you, I was between Ethel and Diddy. It's like the sidekick to B.I.G.
Oh, yeah, that would actually have
he
been
told you that
bad.
we won't stop.
He's a little Winter Soldier-ish there. Yeah.
Darn
Sure.
it, I should have went with Waldo then.
You know.
Waldo had a sidekick. Why was he getting lost in his shirt all the time then?
No, which Waldo are you talking about?
From Family Matters.
Yeah, that's kind of what I figured.
My bad.
Either him or Jazz.
Yeah, I would have went with Jazz, but
Or you could have done, what was it, Cockroach on the Huxtables? That was like
Yes.
Theo's friend.
yes.
Because my favorite one came up that night when Mrs. Huxtable puts them on trial, and he's the lawyer, and like she has like real briefs, and Cockroach is like, I don't even own a pen. What is this? Very good classic Cosby episode. I think we're allowed to still like Bill Cosby, even though he's on trial.
No, he was acquitted.
Oh,
He's
Yeah.
not put it.
I guess yay.
You know, I don't think we're allowed to openly hate, but like at the same time, it doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to get any more business ventures. So
He's like really, really old.
that's fair. He had a good run. But any hoozles.
You think he still eats pudding pops?
Yeah, probably. Dude, you don't eat them for that long and not like them. Like, I'm sorry. It is what it is.
Can I just say my other little favorite episode is the one where Theo's home with him, and they were gonna eat the hoagie, and he was like, "Can we get some near beer?" And he's like, "What is this?" He's like, like almost beer. He's like, "Well, how about you get a near soda and some of this near sandwich and go sit in the near living room?" And I'm just like, "Why not? Like, I just enjoy you as a parent."
Hey. But any hoozles. As we begin to wind down, do you have any final thoughts?
Oh, I've already got the subject for the next 5 because I felt like I was gonna win, so I've been working on this all week. In my mind, no actual application yet, but I feel like this is going to be good. So I kind of thought too that I needed to throw the gauntlet, and I thought maybe if it's okay, we do this as a team. So like you and I versus the Doc and the Professor.
Okay.
And the topic will be top 5 comic villains.
Indeed.
So get your Lex Luthor, get your Mr. Freeze, the Penguin, Catwoman. And it is okay if for example, in some stories, Captain America is a turned agent for Hydra. If you want to use that Captain America, you just have to name it from that story.
Nazi Cap.
You could do that too. And I mean, like, you dig as back into the lore as you want to. You can go to Earth 53. All of it.
Okay.
I was going to make a fake Infinity Stone gauntlet to throw, but then I felt like I was leaning too much to one side. So.
Oh. That's fair. Prof, the challenge has been thrown as a representative of Debate Amongst Friends. Do you accept?
Well, you're gonna have to talk to the Doc about that one. So I think the best thing to do is to go out on social media, on Debate Amongst Friends Facebook and group page, and call out the Doc himself and see what he has to say there.
Fair enough.
That's fair.
We'll throw the digital gauntlet.
I'm just kind of salty because no one wanted to get on top of Krillin and Luigi being the top 2 top sidekicks of all time. That's all I'm trying to say. Like, especially Luigi. Like, come on.
But you know what? That actually kind of makes sense. That's the plight of the sidekick. Don't nobody ever be cheering for you.
That is very true. Yeah.
It's unfortunate, but it's the thing.
Well, Luigi literally had a renaissance happen. Like, everyone loves Luigi.
Right.
And you gave Luigi his shine. And like, trust me, we're in a super minority for that. Like, everybody's always talking about Batman. No one cares about Robin or Batgirl or any of the other ones.
Not till he became Nightwing.
Nope. I didn't even like Nightwing that much, but that's just me.
Boom. Smoke
Or a
bomb.
Red Hood person.
Was Rudy for me. He was.
Yeah.
A Red Hood person, though. Guns, pow, pow, pow. Ah!
Really? Pew pew.
Yeah.
Pew pew. I don't know. I might get my own. I don't know if I want to be on your team.
What are you talking about? I am a wealth of useless information. Exactly.
I'm not. You know what? I just sometimes feel like the secret to being married is silence. Like, just sometimes you can't misconstrue what I don't say.
That's fair.
And I'm going to go with that now.
That's fair.
But I think you should know I am judging you very much so in my head.
Oh, I know. That just happens all the time.
Oh, and I'm looking at you in that tone of voice as well.
So, are those your final thoughts?
Duke, as your
Um,
advocate, I suggest you run away.
I can't run. It's my show. I can't run, but I can deflect them.
that's true. Sham shield. Thanks, Army.
Sham
No,
shield only works
I
for
would say
bullets,
in
not for idle threats.
kind of keeping with our theme, I do want to give a shout out to the 101st Airborne Division, Fort Campbell, one of the few divisions of the Army that has fought in every American conflict, and they are quite proud of it.
Well,
Only
since
second,
World War II.
that's not how they see it. I'm gonna just tell you that. I went to the museum. It's a thing. Second only to their rivals, the 82nd Airborne Corps, which we're still pro them, but like it's like a sibling thing. Like we can talk smack, but y'all can't talk smack. It's a thing. And not even that, but to your fellow Citadel people. So all of them, and just say thank you for what you do, because you have several people at that school who won the Purple Heart, the Bronze Star, and they're kind of like Stopers, where they hunger to turn men and boys into men, and they do a very good job at it. Not always by my methods, but still.
That's fair. And
So snaps and circles.
actually, in keeping with that, honestly, it was about 7 years ago now. We actually lost one of our own in Iraq. Lieutenant Aaron Whitman of the 5th Special Forces Group, who died in the line of duty. He was one of my classmates at Citadel. He was an Army buddy when I went in, and it was very tragic what happened to him, but he died doing what he loved. So, we all kind of take solace in that fact, and we sucked it up and moved on. But it doesn't hurt every now and then to take time to remember those individuals who showed us what true courage and heroism looks like. So, I just wanted to give my shout outs to him. Also, I wanted to inversely give my shout outs to the students at Parkland. I don't always, actually, I hardly ever. Okay, amend it one more time. I never agree with their policies, but I do have to say there is something to be said, especially at that age, about children coalescing together and rallying around something that they believe so strongly in.
I agree with that.
And, I have to give them props just for being able to do that. I feel like their ideals are a little misguided right now, but, screw it. You're kids. You're high school age. You're not even old enough to vote yet. So hopefully in time you will grow and, your ideas and opinions will also grow. And if you still feel that way, that's great. If not, that's great too. That's the great thing about America. But again, I just want to give snaps to them for, being able to orchestrate the March for Our Lives over this weekend, and to all the people who participated in it. Again, I don't have to agree with your politics or your, worldview to be able to appreciate the things that you have been able to accomplish. So
It's very true.
I just wanted to go ahead and throw that one out there. I guess, was there any real pressing business amongst friends news out there that I'm missing out on?
Well, I don't know if you know this, but I won the top 5.
Well, other than a recount of the top 5 from the last session, because I feel like that there was some shenanigans happening there. I wouldn't necessarily say the fix was in, but something was definitely happening there. So we're gonna
Just
get
ain't for that. You ain't getting no discount. It is what it is.
we're gonna get the rest of our data analyst team to come in, and they're just gonna crunch the numbers real quick just to see if the numbers are correct. But other than that, though, not too much from our side as far as business amongst friends. We are going to start doing some gaming amongst friends. I believe the countdown and the anticipated start date is about the 4-1 area.
Okay.
This should be that first week.
For what game?
So that's interesting that you mentioned that. So originally it's supposed to start off with Borderlands. There might be some testing streams using either Borderlands or Left 4 Dead, but possibly and most likely maybe What we want to try to do is to have a co-op opportunity for the newest game that just came out, highly acclaimed, A Way Out, which was a very, really good game. I had a chance to review that for a little bit.
Okay.
I was gonna volunteer my Barbie skate game from Super Nintendo, Barbie Dodge. So it's like a vintage feel.
You know.
I mean,
It's like-
technically, you could still do that. You just have to record it and just send it out to This Amongst Friends, Debate Amongst Friends,
That's okay.
gmail.com,
I'm-
and we can just definitely upload it.
I'm not like the people trying to bring back Smurfs. I understand that sometimes an oldie but a goodie stays an oldie to stay a goodie.
I think I spent a good while actually watching videos with old school cartoon themes, and one of them was Smurfs, and I sat there and actually that might end up being a video I might do for Debate Amongst Friends. Sit there and give number grades from 1 to 10 for 80s and 90s cartoon theme songs. Just the theme songs, not the shows. I think that'd be pretty fun to do.
You know, should definitely throw the Snorks in there.
I don't think the Snorks was on that.
Oh. Oh well.
I think they're post 90s, but there wasn't a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, no, they were a Hanna-Barbera cartoon.
I mean, I feel like when you do Josie and the Pussycats, Top Cat,
Oh, they did have one for 70s and 80s, and I believe Josie and the Pussycats was a 70s cartoon.
Yep.
that's like that Cartoon Network rap commercial used to come on all late at night when I was a kid. I'll find that and I'll send that to you. It was quite entertaining.
Yeah.
I do know the words, but I will not embarrass myself amongst these people that way.
It depends
I
which
am
cartoon
not
rap it
Cardi B
was.
for living this life as a secret thug on the weekends. So I'm, kind of a stay-at-home wife, cook dinner type of thing. I don't go rah-rah with my Nina or any of these things. So I'll leave that to the professionals.
What the heck was that?
I don't know. That was the ghost in the show, I guess. I don't
think
know.
it was. I think it's time to wrap up the show. I think it's getting too out of hand, sir.
Yeah, that's fair. But thank you all for attending. Definitely next time that you want to catch us, or even if you want to go back and look at some of our past shows, you can catch us on our Debate Amongst Friends YouTube page, as well as on Google Play and the iTunes Store now. You can also catch us on Twitter at Debate Amongst Friends, on Twitch at Debate Amongst Friends, our Facebook page, our Facebook group page at Debate Amongst Friends. You can catch us on Instagram. You can catch the Duke on Instagram at Duke of Pigeons.
No fra?
No fra. And you can also catch us on SoundCloud. Again, if you want to send me a tweet, then you need to grab a bird, strap a letter to it, and send it off. I would suggest that you grab a pigeon and not just any bird, but any bird will do.
I think that'll upset PETA.
I mean, only if you kill it. I think. I don't know. I'm not a member of PETA, so I really don't care. But, with that, thank you to, our lovely co-host here, the Duchess. Thank you to the professor for getting us set up for tonight's show. And thank you to all of you for listening in. We will catch you next time.